As some people will remember, we came here last winter and we took this apple tree sucker, which had grown up from a old dead apple tree root system, and we grafted it to 5 different varieties. So each main branch is a different variety, and then the top is another variety. So we're here a year later to train, maintain, prune, and set this tree up for the coming year. Everything went really well. We have shoots, lots of 3 and 4 foot shoots. This is probably 4 feet or more right here. And yeah, it did really well. The only problem is there's a strip of dead bark on the west side of the tree southwest, where we failed to paint the tree with white paint to reflect the sun. We knew that and we talked about doing it, we just never got around to it. So as a result, we have this big dead strip of bark, and that's 100% preventable just with paint. Like the back side of the tree on the shady south side, it's totally fine. Okay, so we're gonna do some pruning here, and I'll tell you what I'm doing and why real briefly, but not in too much detail. So anything growing straight up like this, I don't want this growing up and getting bigger. It's gonna grow twice this big next year, and it's all entangled with this branch here. So I wanna shorten that. But since the tree is new and I want it to start producing fruit, I'm gonna top it about 6 inches long or so. So a couple of these shoots will grow into vegetative shoots, like long growing shoots, and these down here will have a chance to turn into fruiting buds for next year and hopefully make fruit next year. So there's multiple examples of that here that we can do, and then after that happens next year, we can prune these back to one of those fruiting buds and try to keep them from growing too much and just starting to sit there and produce fruit. Now this one is growing straight up, but this is the end of the shoot. This is the main branch. So this one we want to bend down and actually fix in place to become the main branch here. So I have an old piece of lath here. And we'll just now it's breaking. Do you have a twisty tie? Yeah. Okay, that looks good. So now this is at a nice 45-degree angle. This angle is fine, but we just want this to grow out like a normal branch. So again, growing up straight, top it off at about 6 inches. I'm cutting right to a bud. Oh, and also we grafted 2 scions onto this branch here, so we can actually remove one of those completely. This side branch is fine the way it is. We'll let that grow. Let the main branches be as long as they want. They can grow. Here's another one that's growing straight up. Can you see that? Time to tilt the camera up a little bit. Okay, so this one's also growing straight up. We don't want that, but we want this to produce fruit next year, so we can just cut this back to one of these side branches, shorten the side branches, just leave that for the rest of the year. The rest of this looks fine. I maybe shorten this one a little bit to encourage this one to grow more as the main branch. This is okay. I'll just shorten this a little bit too. Alright, so let's get into the top of the tree, prune that, and we're going to graft this to a new variety. This is going to be Bite Me, my new apple seedling, and I want to test it down here in the valley because it's over 100 degrees frequently here. So this we can just cut off at about 2 inches. And this was just a branch that we made grow by notching above it. We cut a big notch here and it forced that branch to grow. You can see how much it grew in one, that's just a single year. And we only did that to graft onto it because it's the main stalk and it's just a root stalk, so it doesn't make good apples or anything. Okay, so up here we have 4 branches that grew off the top of the tree. We don't need all of those, so I'm going to take off a couple completely. And then these I'll shorten off, all of them. Now with this system, the modified or delayed open center, you want to keep the top top down, and what'll happen is these are all going to grow really vigorously and really evenly because they're evenly spaced and they're about the same. And by the time, you know, the resources of the tree are traveling up the tree, and these are taking it away as we go, and so the top gets weakened, which is great because it's easy to keep the top short where you can reach it. If we train this tree just like this and keep it here, I can maintain it with this simple, like, what is it, like an 8-foot ladder or something. So this we're also going to top off. The only thing I would say is that you want to see where your lowest branch is over here, which is on this side and which direction it's growing in, and pick a bud when you top this that faces that way, because it'll kind of grow out this way towards this slightly open space. Maybe here. Yeah, even here is fine. So there, that's it. It's the tree's trained for another year. I'm gonna cut that off too. Okay, this is gonna be a simple cleft graft. We're just gonna split the stalk. Take our scion, cut it into a wedge, a long wedge, like that. Jam it in here and wrap it up. But we're gonna go ahead and seal this up. There's kind of a gap where water can get in there. I want that completely sealed. And then we're gonna paint the whole graft. Just because it's been getting really warm, it's going to take a little while for this to heal and start to grow, and sealing it like this with this paint will prevent the moisture from leaving. Okay, we're going to do one last thing, and that is take the knife and just slice down these. This tape is pretty stretchy, so even though these grew a lot, it didn't really strangle the tree. You do want to keep an eye on it, but these are fine. But we don't want them on there this year. It's okay to cut into the bark a little bit, it'll heal up right away. Okay, so we had to tie this tree with a rope and pull it over, and we just untied the rope, but a borer got under here and started eating this. So that's like a beetle, and it lays its eggs, and then the grub burrows around in here. You can see it left a lot of powder. There it is right there. See that? That's the grub right there. If they burrow all the way around the bark, they can kill the tree. But this one didn't, so it'll heal up eventually. And if you just sort of clean it up, if you don't see the grub, take a wire. An old guitar string is perfect because it's hardened, and you can just stick that up into all the burrows until you think that you've got into all of them, and hopefully you'll stab it and kill it. It's probably just one. So now we're down to like where we got clean, green, live bark on all the edges, close, almost. And that'll start to heal in and heal this up. We're gonna paint the whole trunk all the way from the base up near the top, anything that might get sunlight, with diluted latex paint. So 50% latex paint and 50% water. Okay, so we're all set up. These I think are fine to leave these full length. One thing we could do, well, let's do this just for fun. We can notch a few of these buds to make them grow into branches, because these are going to grow kind of randomly. And one way to make them grow where you want is to bring this back and nip it off, and that'll force some of these to grow out, and then one of them usually will grow straight back again. But we could also just leave this long and then take a knife and notch the buds and force them to grow. So like this looks like a great place to have a branch growing out right there. Let's just make this a little experiment here. So I'm going to cut a little half moon notch right here just to give this an extra boost. Now we'll talk about this in the future, but the theory is either the notch is stopping the energy of the plant, you know, the nutrients and water from going up here, from going past this bud, and so they kind of are diverted. Or this is sending hormonal signals down the tree to the bud, telling it not to grow as much, and that will disrupt those and make it grow. Maybe it's both, I don't know which it is. But maybe like every 12 inches. So here's one at 10 inches. We'll go ahead and notch that too. And let's do that on this other one as well.
Where's the notch made, above or below?
If you want the bud to grow as a vegetative bud, like into a shoot, then you cut above the bud. And supposedly if you cut underneath it, it'll tend to make it into a fruiting bud. So we could try that on a couple of those too. But I don't have a lot of experience with that. But let's say I'm going to go up here about 18 inches. We'll put a little notch there, just a little half moon notch. You just want to make sure you go all the way through the bark and into the wood, maybe scrape it a little bit. Make sure no nutrients or whatever, make sure it's disrupted. And then here's, you know, another 14 inches, that's a good spacing. So we'll cut that and just leave it at that. Now, yeah, let's just go ahead and see. I think most of these are going to turn into fruiting buds this year anyway. But if we just do a couple of them, we can see if there's any difference. And I'll do that over here too. And that's it. We'll see you again next, whenever. This is later.